America is changing. Not loudly, not suddenly, but quietly, like a foundation cracking beneath polished floors. And today I reveal the number that exposes that fracture, the Moral Decay Index. Today's score, 44.8 out of 100. Not the worst in history, but far from the strength we pretend to have. They say a nation never falls in a single moment, not with an explosion, but with a whisper. Not through an enemy's sword, but through its own forgetting. And tonight, I want to tell you a story about a country that once stood like a mountain. Unshakable, confident, believing it could outrun the laws of human nature. This nation thought its strength was permanent, that its virtue was guaranteed. That decline was something that happened somewhere else, to someone else. But the numbers began to shift, quietly, unnoticed, like shadows lengthening across a room at dusk. The first sign came in the silence of its people. More and more souls choosing to leave this world on their own terms. Not out of impulse, but out of exhaustion. A society overflowing with noise had forgotten how to offer meaning. And so the suicide rate climbed. The loudest cry from a people who had forgotten how to cry. Then came the poison, a chemical plague slipping through streets the way fog slips through valleys. Fentanyl, overdoses, lives erased before dawn. Entire towns dimming like lanterns running out of oil. A nation that once marched forward now stumbled, weakened not by enemies, but by the quiet collapse of its own resilience. As the years passed, trust began to fracture. The people looked at their institutions the way one looks at a crumbling bridge, with doubt, with suspicion, with a fear that crossing it might be fatal. Confidence in the protectors dwindled, and where trust evaporates, disorder waits patiently to take its place. Families began to loosen, not shattered by force, but pulled apart thread by the weight of a culture that no longer valued permanence. Divorce rose not as a tragedy, but as a routine, a ritual of disconnection that left more children than anyone wants to admit learning how to be strong too early. Even the sanctuaries dimmed. The places that once balanced the world with quiet wisdom now stood half empty, echoing with the absence of those who once sought guidance there. Where ritual and community fade, a vacuum forms, and chaos rushes in to fill it. And high above the people, the power structures rusted behind polished doors. Corruption no longer shocked anyone. It was just another piece of wallpaper in the nation's living room. The outrage faded, replaced by a tired acceptance that the system was no longer built for virtue, but for survival, influence, and optics. And yet, for all these fractures, the nation still marched on, not destroyed, not collapsed, but undeniably changed. When all these forces were measured, the despair, the addiction, the distrust, the fragmentation, the fading of spiritual life, the decay at the top, they formed a single number, 44.8. Not a death sentence, but a diagnosis. The Moral Decay Index is a mirror, and the reflection it offers is unsettling. Not because the nation is gone, but because the strength it once assumed, it no longer fully possesses. But here's the part of the story that most forget. In every age of decline, a smaller group rises, a harder group, a disciplined group, a group that refuses to rot with the world around it. They become the iron in an age of clay, the stillness in an age of noise, the clarity in an age of confusion. And you wouldn't be listening to this if you weren't part of that group. A nation may decay, but an individual can rise. A culture may falter, but a mind can be sharpened. A society may drift, but a single disciplined soul can become a lighthouse against the entire storm. Remember this: empires crumble, but character endures. Institutions fail, but discipline doesn't. Societies decay, but the mind of the Stoic becomes stronger in the ashes. This is the story of America's MDI, 44.8. Not a prophecy of doom, but a call to those who can still hear the truth through the noise of a dying age.